Welcome everyone to Revving Up for Change, Technology Challenges in the Motor Industry Claims. I'll quickly introduce the panel today. Luke Hill is National Operations Manager at AAMC, sponsor of this webinar, and a leading motor accidents management specialist. Luke has deep knowledge of the auto body repair industry and of course the insurance industry. To give us the broker side of the issue we're discussing today, we have with us Tim Considine, a veteran of the business who's in the industry and who's also Managing Director of Ausbrokers Countrywide. And to round off our speakers is David McDonald, Managing Director of The Bridge, an organisation that works in setting up new companies or transforming existing companies. I'll hand you over to the man that doesn't need or doesn't deserve an introduction. It's Chairman of Insurance News, Terry McMullen.
Good morning, and rather good afternoon. Thanks, Andrew, for that introduction. I can assure you that some mornings even my dog doesn't recognise me. Let's get started. My local mechanic was telling me yesterday that no one in his line of business was prepared for just how dramatically and quickly vehicles were going to change from simple Falcons and Holdens to a vast variety of brands bristling with new components of bewildering complexity. And he won't even look at electric vehicles. It's the same story that we're starting to hear in the auto body repair industry, just multiplied. Within insurance, the vital motor claim sector is bristling with issues brought on by the avalanche of highly sophisticated vehicles. I'll leave it to my panelists today to demonstrate the scale of the problems and the possible solutions. Whatever happens, change can only be met by change. So to start off, let me start with you, Luke Hill. Why does it take more money and time to repair a 2023 Kia, say, compared with a 2014 Holden Commodore?
Yeah, thanks, Terry, and welcome everyone. So it's not just a Commodore. I'd say even BMWs and Mercedes-Benz were far less complex than today's average family vehicle. The amount of replacement parts required on a typical, say, front-end crash has nearly doubled. So your entry-level Kia, Toyota, Nissan, Hyundai, or just a family vehicle for that matter in 2023 has a superior and more advanced set of features than, say, a high-end prestige vehicle of only like 5 or 6 years ago. For example, the advanced driver assistance systems technology requires cameras, multiple sensors, additional ECUs, and up to 9 airbags. Not to mention, in some cases, pre-repair scans, and then post-repair calibration costs are also required. On top of that, we've got the body construction materials. They're also more complex. There are blends of differing steel types, such as high-strength steel, advanced high-strength steel, and aluminium designed to strengthen the body whilst keeping it as light as possible. So dependent on the steel type and the severity of damages will also dictate whether we can repair or replace the parts.
Luke, is the pace of technological change in vehicles showing any signs of slowing? And is the insurance industry keeping pace with all this?
Twofold answer there. So short answer, no, there are no signs of technology slowing. It just continues to evolve and even accelerate in some cases. Is the insurance industry keeping pace? I think the best answer is that some are better than others. And all of us, AAMC included, operating in this sector are at varying stages in the journey. The major insurers, those with their own dedicated assessing capability, are obviously in a better position to be on top of the evolving technology, as they have resources to dedicate to the task. Smaller insurers and underwriting agencies can leverage off organisations such as AAMC and provide that knowledge and expertise.
Okay, thanks, Luke. To you now, David McDonald. We've heard from Luke about change in the auto industry, but what are the main cost drivers that all this is presenting to insurers?
Yeah, thanks, Terry, and good afternoon, everyone. I think it's important we take a step back and actually look at the last 2 years in particular in its entirety, and because it's not one thing that insurers are battling with at the moment. We recently released our general insurance report, our annual general insurance report, and we called it "Weathering the Perfect Storm," and for good reason. I think not only do you have increase in frequency and ferocity of weather events, which has actually started to put pressure, real pressure on reinsurance costs. So reinsurance costs going through the industry, depending on who you are, where you're based, that sort of nature have been going, in the vicinity of 20 to 50% higher. You've got obviously pressure on repair costs for reasons like Luke just described, but more broadly, there has been significant capacity issues within the industry, and that's a number of factors again, whether it be workforce availability, whether it be the right people to do the right jobs, a number of things. But what that is actually, and parts availability, etc. So in this environment of increasing costs, you've also had 10 to 15% inflation on claims costs throughout motor insurance, which, if you're doing better than that, you're doing very, very well in this environment. And the flow-on impact around capacity has meant that repair cycle times in some cases have gone up sort of 30, 40%. So the average repair time, which may have been, a few years ago, you turn around repairs in an average of 60 days, that's increased significantly as well. So that has flow-on impacts for insurers through, things like increased hire car costs, just keeping claims open costs more money, customer communications. So, and ultimately, where does this all land? Affordability for consumers. And we will actually see continued significant price rises there. So I don't think it's one thing for insurers. They're dealing on multiple fronts with increased costs and dealing with this issue of affordability for consumers as well.
Yeah, we talk a lot about technology being the answer to technology. Are the answers to keeping claims moving and costs down going to be found in evolving technology only, or are there other factors to take into account? I mean, for example, is this a role where AI would be useful?
Yeah. The answer is, I don't think there's any areas that won't be impacted by technology, and technology is actually improving to help, smooth out claims processes. But at the end of the day, the role of AI really started or commenced back when automation, robotic process automation. That's the start of the role of AI. So I think to think that AI is then going to take over if you haven't done the basics is probably a little naive. So I think regardless of where you are in that cycle of development, you really need to work on your processes, understanding what the clearest path for customers is, how you're going to treat, how you triage, whether it be hail damage versus minor damage versus, total loss. I think a lot of the way that we actually can improve is done through human thinking around how we get the right repair to the right repairer. And once we do that, then we can supplement it with AI to give us better insights, to give frontline claims handlers the information they need at their hands, what's the next best step, all of those types of things, and to improve, I guess, the assessing component from an insurer, so that we can actually be more aligned to the cost outcomes and work with partners, whether they be repairers or AAMC or the like, to actually solve the problems together. And that's going to be the key thing, is this, I sort of love the word, hate the word, but this ecosystem that we're in, whether it be our brokers, insurers, repairers, AAMCs of the world. How do we work together to solve the problem? Because it's a broader problem than any of one of those individual parts. Because as I said, it all goes back to affordability of insurance.
Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting. But thanks, David. Tim Considine, you're the one where the rubber meets the road, really. As a broker, what are your greatest frustrations in dealing with motor claims for you?
Yeah, thanks, Terry, and g'day to everyone. I think that the frustration for me is probably around, in a broker world, it's our highest frequency number of claims in our lowest margin of business, and it's where it costs us money, and the duplication in lodging claims and maintaining clients' communication with insurers, being an intermediary, it's just the time it takes where we're investing to keep people communicated with so they know what's happening. And to David's point, motor claims are taking longer, so we've got a bigger bank of claims than we did 5 years ago. And once you've got that, then you've got multiple clients to follow up for longer. And that's probably the real frustration in our space is the duplication that we do. Just in an example, we get a claim from a client, we put it in our system, we lodge it in a portal, and then we're waiting for the insurer to keep us updated, probably spasmodically and manually, and we haven't got that connectivity to be able to go that step further for the customer and keep them more informed more regularly.
Yeah, okay. Do all the vehicle insurers have the same sort of issues, or have some of them adapted better than others? Can you give us some examples?
I think they're all the same, Terry, and they might not want to hear this, but they need to hear it. A lot of the main motor insurers are probably got direct brands as well, and in their direct brands, they built probably technology to lodge, communicate, and do things. But there's a lot of clients out there that still want to deal with intermediaries because they've got their trusted advisor, and we're an important piece in it. Many of the brokers out there are investing in claims people in their business. And it's just they're doing the same job, same as the insurers, just communicating it back. So I don't think they are at the moment, and we're open to working with them around bots and technology where we can streamline things. But I think the legacy system the insurers have has probably precludes a lot of them out of that.
Yeah, Luke, how do you see insurers reacting to all this change and all these challenges? How do you see repairers containing costs, even as the job gets more complex?
Contains an interesting word. Certainly a challenge to contain costs on replacement parts that are now mostly imported and subject to factors such as exchange rates. Also, given the fact more and more technology, again, to repeat myself, is being added to vehicles as they evolve, meaning we're buying more parts for a typical accident claim. So, for instance, over 62%, we're finding 62% of total repair cost is now parts and technology. So the accepted area that insurers can have some influence, being labour costs, is an ever diminishing part of the total repair costs. An example would be, it's common now to pay in excess of, say, $2,000 for a replacement headlamp, where the same model 5 years ago was, say, $300 or $400. So as assessors, we may be able to still negotiate a portion of the labour costs, say, to replace that item, and it may be quoted for $40 as an example, and an assessor negotiates down to $25. But at the end of the day, the part's still $2,000. So there remain many repairers in the industry. This is where the insurers come in. Repairs in the industry that focus on delivering cost and effective repairs and continue to invest in the ability to do so. So there's also many that won't and cannot. So the key element of the strategy for the insurers to control that repair cost is have a mechanism at FNOL, like Tim touched on before and David before him. So the FNOL, we need to identify and engage the correct repairer for the job. So by correct repairer, I mean the appropriate repairer for that vehicle type, for the damage severity, and one that also has capacity. In these times, it is quite difficult, but we don't want to send a vehicle to a repairer to sit in the car park for sometimes 2 or 3 months, to be honest. From a repairer's viewpoint, I'll keep it simple. I would say invest in the equipment and training to support the service lines that you want to specialise in.
So I can put it on. Or do we need to
My next question, I guess, is to David. You've only recently returned from the United States. What's available in the way of technology now and in the future that addresses the sort of issues we're discussing here?
Yeah, thanks, Terry. It was when you attend a number of conferences, sometimes you walk away with the sense that everything is still in ideation. I walked away with the sense that there are really some quite pragmatic things that are available to insurers right now that we can start implementing. And one of the important things that I took out of the conference is that if you look at horizons of change, I think in the AI space, I think there's the process automation is well embedded, and that's really good for cost savings, straight through processing, etc. Predictive analysis is pretty well advanced, and predictive analysis as it comes to claims is the type of analysis where you look at certain damage types, those types of things, to predict whether this is likely to be a total loss or this is likely to have fraud attached to it, those type of things. That's pretty much in play at the moment. The new world of generative AI, the schedule that they outlined in that is that I guess the most progressive insurers are probably in that test and learn mode now. So small proof of concepts, both supporting the customer and the claims agent journey around next best message, around again enhancing fraud detection, around automation of coverage letters, those types of things. Those things are happening, but the realistic view is that it will be much more mainstream by FY25. So I guess a positive message here is that, get started on designing your processes and those types of things. You don't have to be leading the curve on this. In fact, I think in this might be better to be a fast follower in some examples to pick up on the mistakes that have already been made and pick up things that you can use in the future. The other key thing, and this is not news to anyone, I think it's part of the purpose of this panel, is to use partnerships. I think the days of an insurer developing everything and keeping everything in-house are well and truly gone. The InsurTech movement has developed a lot of great technology that is plug and play. I think through using smart partners like your AAMCs and other providers that can actually bring expertise into your organisation and really utilise those partnerships to actually develop. But I think the most exciting spaces are definitely around that customer guidance around claims time. And again, it goes to the same things: triage, identifying, what's a total loss, where the repair needs to go to, those types of things, as well as in the assessing space around, cost controls and those types of things for insurers. But there's a lot out there. But as I said, the good news is I think a lot of it is going to really help solve for some of the issues insurers are facing, and indeed, by insurers quickening up their processes, improving customer communications, all of those types of things, exactly what Tim was talking about, the flow and impacts across the industry will also be very positive.
Yeah, okay. That's the sort of the mechanical side. What core insurance claims processes or functions can't be or won't be changed by tech, and do processes need to change too?
I think tech will change most processes. But for I glass half full for the better. I think where the risk is, and we did see this with a lot of claims systems in the past, is that they become so automated and a little bit robotic in their nature, is that when customers really need it on complex claims, those types of things, unfortunately, if your processes are very robotic, sometimes it can drive that through your claims handlers as well. So I do think that claims handlers in the future, there'll be a lot more touchless claims, which I think from a consumer perspective is a good thing, because, automated, you can use your mobile phones, get everything booked, and repaired. I think it's for those complex claims. We still need people with a lot of skill and knowledge to help the claim move through the process and guide the customer through complex decisions, whether that be liabilities or those type of things. So I think the simple claims will become a lot more efficient. I think our claims handlers still need to retain a lot of experience to be able to deal with the claims that really matter and are really complicated for consumers. So I think I don't think technology can solve for all of that. I think it can assist humans in presenting the right information, giving the right options, but ultimately a computer doesn't have a lot of empathy, doesn't have a lot of necessarily coordinating skills. And I think that coordinating through your partners and those types of things is going to be what's really critical for dealing with those more complex issues.
Okay. Tim, you're a human. When it comes to vehicle claims, really good. How good is the technology you're using right now? Are brokers introducing their own approaches to sort of fill the gaps? Or are you just forced to wait until the insurers move?
I think there's two parts to this, Terry. I think the technology to lodge a claim and monitor is okay. But it's as I said earlier, it's probably been developed a lot for direct insurers, so they're dealing direct with customers. But we're that extra step in the intermediary chain. So the tech piece out to us is really poor, the communication side of it. So that makes it very clunky in our space. But I think where the technology compared to where it was 10 years ago, and because you called me a veteran 20 years ago, it has improved markedly. But really, I think brokers now we're resorting to use of bots and be able to lodge information in there. Technology, you can lodge a claim on a phone direct to an insurer, but then from an intermediary, there's nothing the other way. So it really has forced us down the point of trying to build our own tech to actually streamline things.
Okay. David, back to you. It seems that the problems and speed and efficiency of motor claims aren't all related to technology. There's a lot of people aspects. Do you see the people who handle motor claims having to get more savvy about finding solutions?
Yeah, I do. And I probably touched on that a little bit before, but certainly it is finding the solutions for the place you play in, whether that be the direct insurer or whether that be the intermediary insurer. And and I think a lot of this is not necessarily just purely around tech. It's about designing for customer processes. So what is the actual process that we want to achieve? And then go out and find the tech that will help you deliver that. And I think if we constantly think tech first, there's a challenge in that you necessarily haven't designed specifically for your market. So I think the onus is shifting on, whereas we sort of used to always look at, how does technology enable people? Maybe it's more around how people enable technology now to deliver the solution for the right market. And I think that's the changing of the role as well. There's always going to be a balance around how does the technology, help your frontline claim staff, help your, get the claim into the right spot, all of those types of things. But it requires someone to sit over the top of that and actually really look at the claims journey and say, what do we actually want to happen here? What's the experiences? Who are the stakeholders? And how does the whole thing sit together? And how do we then enable that? And I think that's the way to solve the problems, through your, your network, your partners, your suppliers, and really get that piece right.
Okay, well, there's an answer there. Tim, you're facing a perfect storm of slow claims, inadequate technology, and rapid complexity in the repair process. What's your, I guess you'd call it, solutions wish list?
There's one word, Terry: trust. We're a trusted advisor to our clients. And I think the insurers have probably and I love the conversation around the complexity of a claim. Simple claims we should be able to deal with if the insurers gave us the trust level and the authority to do certain things, like appointing assessors and doing all those things much quicker. I think trust is a really big piece of that. And I know it's always hard to let go, but as brokers are becoming more professional, more structured, if insurers trust us, and my final comment is, let us be part of the solution.
Okay. Luke, where do you think action is most needed? And how do you think your company can help brokers add value for their clients?
The excessive time taken from claims lodgement to when we receive a claim really needs to be improved. We are working with both underwriters and brokers to address that issue, but where AAMC can really add value is when being notified of a claim, similar to what the theme has been actually the whole way through, but notified of a claim as soon as practical to the date of loss. This allows us to connect with key stakeholders, triage the appropriate area, and engage the correct repairer. Obviously, this results in a more streamlined and controlled process that benefits the broker and, more importantly, their business clients. Probably a piece of advice for the brokers out there: it's a real, and I slightly touched on this before, but it's a real misconception that the motor repair industry in general can repair anything, and the cost and quality can be controlled by insurers and the assessors. I think I've more or less covered one reason why that's not the case in the previous questions and answers, but so being included as soon as possible into the claim allows us to be proactive as possible, ensuring the claim is set up for success from day one.
Okay, that's all the questions I want to ask you. We're now on to our audience's questions, which have been flowing in, and in the time available, we'll try and get through as many as we can. And the first one is a bit of an embarrassment for me, in that it's for David, and it involves the first notice of loss. What's preventing these current first notice of loss staff allocating motor claims to the most appropriate repairer? Why not?
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces to this. I think a lot of this is my view of what's happening. I think first notice of loss for a while was treated as sort of the most junior role in the claims organisation within an insurer. And I think, therefore, it was more about information gathering and then pass it on to somebody else who will manage the claim. I sort of strongly believe in flipping that, and I think both Tim and Luke have mentioned this, it's all about setting the claim up for success. So to me, the better information that we can capture at F&OL, whether that be through digital channels for customers or through a claims handler, that's what sets the claim up on the right path. If we're talking about reducing cycle times, reducing costs for insurers, getting better customer experience for the broker, if we've got staff who are able to identify the level of damage, the type of damage, the right repairer, up front. So I think there's a skilling component to this. I think it can be supplemented by technology, but I also think the systems and the process, I keep on coming back to process mapping, we need to be very clear around identifying the different types of claims that come through and giving the knowledge to our people around, what is the best solution and where that next step is. So that focus on triage at FNOL and setting the claim up for success is absolutely critical. So I think, if I'm looking at the problems preventing it, I think it's skilling, I think it's support systems, and clarity around, this ever-changing world, what types of vehicles or what types of damage need to go where.
Okay. Tim, I want to ask you a question from our audience. What's preventing a broker appointing an insurer's supplier, say a repairer or assessor, at the time of first notification to really expedite the process?
Authority. We're just not allowed. We haven't got the authority to do it.
Could that be changed?
Absolutely. We're very confident in that. Look, realistically, to me, it's a process. We've talked about process mapping. It's following a bouncing ball. As long as you stay within the rules, you just appoint it, and it just fast tracks. And that's the trust piece that we really need to get to.
Yeah. Do you think we can?
Well, we're confident in our ability. It's at the insurer's call. It's their authority that they hand over. So I think in a lot of the non-complex motor claims, we could streamline things a lot quicker if we had the authority to do set steps. And to the other point, complexity, we're not the experts in that, so we're not going to get into that space, but there's a lot of claims that could fall into that category.
Yeah, I get you. David, I think this could probably be best one for you. What factor can or should legislation or governments play in improving the processes? Because, that really are a limiting factor in how well the industry can respond. Do you see that if we don't see change happening, that we will see regulation or some kind of government intervention?
I think there's been a lot of that to date, and I think insurers are still responding on that. And I think the intention of all of the changes, like your JICOP, etc., all have great intent. They're all about trying to get a better outcome for consumers, and under this, I guess the banner, I keep on saying, of affordability. It's not just in insurance, by the way. Affordability, you have to be pretty blind to see that, whether it's property, whether it's energy prices, so I do think, governments and private enterprise working together to help solve for specific issues is going to be increasingly important, particularly in Australia, where we've got such a volatile market, in terms of certain areas of Australia with catastrophic events and those types of things, is enabling, insurers to operate in those environments and actually provide better outcomes for customers. So, look, there's a number of things in that space, and I think it's started. I think it's working together, though, so it doesn't feel like it's imposed on the industry. It's more of a joint partnered solutions for some of the problems that we're actually seeing, and that could even get down to the skilled resources that are available, etc.
Yeah, well, that leads us to another question here for you, Luke. What are your thoughts on the lack of skilled people to actually work in motor assessing?
It's a problem, no doubt about that. There's a definite skill shortage. I actually, only a week ago, I looked on Seek to see what ads are up there, and there was over 40 assessing roles advertised by either the insurers or businesses like ours. We're all fishing from the same pond, so to speak, and you combine that with the repairers who are also looking for skilled tradesmen and smart people to be able to quote and manage shops. So there needs to be some definite investment in assisting repairers bringing on apprentices to feed the market with technical people. And businesses like ours need to be smarter in the way that we look to employ and build our assessing pool. So we've just started, as an example, we've just started a AAMC assessing traineeship program. We currently have 3 assessors in that, in training, all aligned to the Cert 4 qualification, and we'll bring another 3 on in February. So a lot of insourcing, a lot of training work required, a lot of investment.
Yeah, okay. Is there any information available or that you would like to have to identify which repairer has the skill and the availability for a particular vehicle and damage type? Is this available at all, and what would it take to make it real time available?
So we have, I can speak for ourselves, but the major insurers would be the same. Is we have a matrix set up with the particular repairers and their skill set. So whether it be HMV, EV, mechanical, something as simple as PDR. So that's all set up in our system. So as soon as we identify, we can start triaging. The information required to make those decisions, going back to the FNOL, as much information as possible up front, and images a lot of the time are a really good source of information. If we don't receive those, we, and I'm sure our competitors and our clients in the insurers have this, we've got the ability to send out URLs, grab those images, or even do a video and actually have that particular person, stakeholder, walk around the unit and supply us with a video, and then we can make decisions based on that. And there needs to be triage points within any business where when it becomes, and I think Tim or David may have covered this before, but there's simpler processes to do within a business, and then there's more complex. We have our people set up to do simple processes and then escalation point to put through to the more technical capabilities in the business to then triage it. Hope I answered that question the way it was asked.
Yeah, it is a complex issue, but you can also see that there are a lot of people problems involved and tied up in all this. Tim, let me ask you, with the quick advancement of artificial intelligence and machine learning, will claims functions become fully automatic in the foreseeable future? And maybe we could even look at it replacing the broker's role.
Oh, heaven forbid, Terry. Heaven forbid. No, look, I'm as I said, I'm a veteran. It's all about people. I think it can go to a certain amount, but this is all about if we can get artificial intelligence and learning coming in to assist a better outcome for the customer, because that's what we're all here for, is to get our customers a better outcome. We're all for it, but I think it doesn't. You can't go past picking up the phone and talking to someone, having a conversation.
When we look at the whole problem, I really see the need for a lot of thinking across borders, if you like. Luke, do you see all repairers being able to invest and adopt new ways to manage repairs on contemporary cars?
No, not all. What I'd say is a lot of repairers now are investing in the particular area where they specialize. So as an insurance market, we need to be looking at those repairers for the specialist repairs. So most are really good at specializing. So, I mean, the theme at the moment everywhere is EVs. So there's repairers out there investing heavily in that technology and what they need to do to repair those vehicles.
Righto. One of our audience questions: will AAMC get more assessors in rural New South Wales, Luke?
Put me on the spot. The issue, I suppose, we've had, and I'm sure everyone's had, what happened, COVID hit, that enabled insurers to probably start working in ways that maybe they hadn't thought of before. And what I mean by that is doing more digital assessments. So how that's affected AAMC is, whereas we used to send assessors, say in that area, in particular New South Wales rural, in light motor, HMV we've got full coverage, but in light motor in particular, we don't see the volume there like we once did. So the short answer is yes, you will. The long answer is, for us to be able to do that and remain viable, we need our, sorry for any clients on this webinar, we need our clients to support us and give us the volume out in those areas so we can get assessors out there.
Volume and authority. David, let me ask you this question from the audience. What role can insurance providers play to support repairers and assessors during these skills shortages in either recruiting and or upskilling?
Yeah, I was looking at that question. It's a very good question. I think some of the answer goes to, the way that people work now. Like there's a lot of, and it might be in some of the things that Luke was just saying then too, maybe there is alternatives to get different resources into the industry and skilling through, more digital means like desktop assessing and working with suppliers to, look at ways that insurers can actually enable that type of thing, so that you can actually build maybe a different workforce coming in and building up skills that way. I think the ultimate answer is still around the whole concept of partnering and seeing it as a joint problem, because insurers are involved in this issue as well because of those repair cycle times, because of all the things that I mentioned earlier. So if we actually see it as a joint issue, that we actually go, well, let's get together, have a think tank about this. Is this a long-term issue? Do we think it's going to be here for the foreseeable future? If so, what can we actually do to attract people to the industry overall? Not just the insurance company, not just the repairer, but the industry, to actually find solutions.
Okay, another question. We've got AAMC, who to major insurers are often utilised because of their independence. But at the same time, and especially among the major insurers, we just have the in-house assessing teams fighting for bottom dollar on every job. What impact are we seeing this having? And given the talk of investment, etc., on the part of repairers, is it sustainable?
Me, I would assume.
I guess that's a good one for you, Luke. Yeah.
I'd probably start off by saying, first thing is, there's probably two parts to that answer. The first thing is, when we're instructed by an insurer, whilst we're an external supplier to them, we operate under their business rules, and every insurer has slightly different business rules, and that can be quite intricate in many ways. So as far as the independent side goes, in the normal insurance market, that's probably not the case. What was the second part of the question there?
Sorry, what impact are we seeing this having, and giving the talk?
Oh, with the repairers, wasn't it?
Investment, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think we all need to acknowledge that the repairers, like any business with anything, like even inflation alone, but also the technology they're investing in, they need to be paid the appropriate dollars to do that job. But the only thing to do their work, the only thing I'd say is, there are repairers out there with really well-refined processes and really well done, that operate their business in a really good manner, that are able to do their repairs at a cost-effective manner. And then there are others, and it's like any other business, where potentially their processes may not be as refined, and they require a more amount of money to do the certain role. So again, getting back to the insurer with that, like, yes, the insurer, the repairer does deserve the right amount of money to do the job, but also it's a responsibility to do your very best to contain costs as well.
All right. Luke, I'll stay with you. Another question. Have cyber attacks and scams resulted in any increase in motor claims with the increasing use of new technologies on cars?
I'm not really sure if I'm actually...
You can do that with a yes or a no if you like.
Not that I'm aware of.
Right. I certainly am not either. We've reached the end of our session. Andrew, do you want to sign off? You'll leave it to me. That's risky. Look, I've got a couple of minutes. Let me just ask you, each member of the panel, and I'm with you, Luke, so I'll stay with you. What's your key takeaway from the things we've discussed this morning?
Pretty easy one. Cooperation, trust within, I think it's David said he didn't necessarily like this word, the ecosystem, and being proactive in the ability to be able to lodge an FNOL and take it through to the key stakeholders in the process as soon as possible. Okay,
good one. Tim, what's your key takeaway after listening to all our discussions?
I think just coming back to playing we need to play our role in the claim process, but we need to be part of the process. I think that's the takeaway, and how we engage with some of the external providers and our insurer partners. And again, it comes back to getting the customer the best outcome.
Yeah, when you talk about that sort of partnership with your suppliers, you're really talking. Do you see that happening?
Look, Terry, I think it will as brokers become more professional in their claims methodology and the people we're employing. Like, we've got 100 staff and we've got over 10 in our claims team, and they're doing a lot of the same work as insurers. So this is the time where we can all do better if we just have that, get back to a bit of trust and the authority that comes through.
Yeah, that makes sense. David, what's your key takeaway from this discussion?
Look, it's probably not that different than the guys there. I think it's working within your partnerships, and that's a classic example that Tim just mentioned. Then, I mean, ultimately, if we've got a non-connected process, or we've got double ups and things like that, ultimately that's hitting efficiency, it's hitting affordability, it's going to ultimately hit in rates for consumers. And I think there's a smarter way to do this more efficiently for the businesses that we're actually dealing with. If we sat down and really went, well, okay, what's the end-to-end customer experience? Who plays that? Who plays the role in that? And work differently to solve for some of the really large problems that the industry is actually facing at the moment. And working together in partnership is always going to be stronger than working in silos.
Excellent. Look, I'll leave it there and thank all our panelists. Certainly what came through to me, I expected a great discussion on the need for technology. What has struck me is a lot of the human side, the need for more cooperation, more discussion, more working together to actually solve problems like this. A system that once worked is not going to hold up under a new kind of environment. So the industry has a long record of going a little slower at the start, but inevitably it will solve problems because it has to. I'd like to thank my panelists, Luke Hill, David McDonald, Tim Considine, for being with us today. And I hope that our audience has gained a bit more knowledge on this perplexing and complex situation. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again at some stage in the future.